Awesome. Welcome to Open Conversations with International Coaches for June 6th, 2024. Our topic today is online presence 1.0 and, in particular, websites. We're going to start with introductions as we usually do. Uh, Shelly Ann, why don't you go ahead first?
Thank you. Thank you. Good day, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I love saying that. It gets me thinking, that people from all around the world, all different time zones are tuning in, which we do get comments from. So that's awesome. Uh, Hi, everyone. My name is Shelly-Ann Edwards Barron, and I am a gratitude guide and habit coach. And what I do is to help my clients really embrace discipline. As we were chatting before we began, Cass reminded me of that word. That's my mantra for the that's my special word for this year. I think I'm gonna make it my word of the year next year, so that we could really get into discussions on that. And how I do this discipline with my clients is by helping them balance their habits and gratitude, sort of infuse their efforts with gratitude, so that as they go after what they want, they don't lose sight of enjoying what they already have and enjoying life as it is. Because usually what happens, when we hit 40 and we talk about, midlife crisis, and we're moving on to um, different, we see all the things that we're missing. And that happened to me. And I'm kind of, a little out of sorts today because I'm in one of those moods where gratitude is really going to help me come out of it, and that's why I'm really happy that I'm here to have this conversation today. And so what I do and what I'm practicing right now, to help myself out of the mood that I'm in, is to change my self talk, which is what I call saying it right. So I'm going to be listing all the things that I'm grateful for and paying attention to the way I phrase the language. And then I'm saying it loud, which is what I'm doing right now, speaking to you and having this conversation. Because, of course, everything I talk about, gratitude comes in, and sharing thoughts and gratitude there. And then, because of number three, which is saying it always, I have this habit of including gratitude into my space. And so even when things happen that, get me down, or, I'm in particular moods, things aren't going as quickly as I would like, I always remember to infuse it with gratitude. And that helps me keep going because gratitude forms this sort of foundation habit and keystone habit, as I call it, that allows me to get through with the other habits and eventually get to where I'm going. So I call that the gratitude strategy. And so that's what I help my clients with. And inevitably, as they pursue their goals, they are able to deal with overwhelm and distress. And really, when they fall or when they stumble, they can pick themselves back up a lot more quickly so that they can get to what is important to them. And so I've been on a journey with gratitude for a long time. But if you want to hear a little bit more about that, you can check my YouTube channel, Getting It Done with Gratitude, where I did a year-long project with a colleague of mine, and we spoke about all things gratitude for an entire year, one episode a week, and all that's archived there. And so that's completed. The year is done, but we're putting things together to resume. So you can keep checking in. Or you can check me on LinkedIn, Shelly and Edwards Barron, on Facebook, my name as well, and reach out if you want to find out how you too can live a blissful life with discipline using gratitude. Thank you very much, Steve.
Hey, absolutely love it. Cass, jump in.
Hi, I'm Cass J. Henry. I'm an abundance coach working out of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I offer my services both in person and virtually. As an abundance coach, it's my job to assist my clients in altering their perspective from one of lack to one of abundance. Together, we discover the power of tools like affirmations, habit creation, mindset work, goal setting, experimentation, and journaling, just to name a few, with an overarching goal to achieve a more harmonious balance in their life. If you find yourself feeling stuck and focusing on everything going wrong in your world right now, let's do a discovery call and see if we're a good fit. I'd love the opportunity to show you the abundance that's in your life already right now. And you can find me on my website, cassjhenry.com.
Excellent. Excellent. And it really is all about abundance. I just love that. My name is Stephen B. Henry. My friends call me Steve, and I'd be honored if you would too. I've been online for, well, a long time, since before the internet was public. I've been working with websites since early 1994, and with WordPress particularly since 2007, not too long after it was rolled out. I'm known by many online as the WordPress Wizard. I've been an online presence consultant, a business success guide, and a personal development mentor for more than 12 years now, and I'm also known as the coach's coach. I guess you could say I know a little bit about running an online business, and for an online solopreneur running a small business, having a dedicated website offers numerous features and benefits that can, well, I guess you could say they could significantly enhance your exposure, provide a platform for showcasing your wares and services, and establish a solid foundation for an online presence. And today we're going to talk about websites. This is the first in a series of episodes we're going to do on various topics covered under the concept of online presence, which is a very broad area. And we're going to look at some specific factors within that broad topic today, in particular websites. And the first thing I want to do before we get started into the meat of this is to make a crazy offer here. I do this every now and then. I want to make a crazy website offer since we're talking about websites. And the price is so low on this offer, I'm not going to mention it right now. I don't want it to be recorded because I don't want to have to live with it later on. It is truly crazy. So if you need an affordable but a very professional website, feel free to contact me. My website is right there with my name. You can use the contact form on that page to get a hold of me. You need to provide me with the word foundation, as in a website should be the foundation of your online presence, in order to qualify for this discount. And then I'll give you the details about it. No obligation. You can decide or not at that time. I'm going to offer 3 of these, just 3. So the first people who take it will get it, and try your success, jump in and make the offer, or ask about the offer, and we'll go from there. So we want to get into talking about websites today. And as I said, I've been around a while in the online realm and working with websites since early in 1994. The World Wide Web, by the way, where websites started, was rolled out at the end of 1993. So it's been there 3.5 decades, roughly. Go ahead, Cass.
I looked it up this morning because I wasn't sure about what year, and they actually had web interface in 1989. CERN was the first place that did it, and it was text-based originally, and then they eventually rolled it out, and it was internal, and then they eventually rolled it out, you're right, at the end of 93 to be public,
it was internal for CERN, and it was the term hypertext was the whole concept, and that's what the HTTP or HTTPS now protocol is, hypertext transfer protocol. So that's where it started, back in CERN, which is where a lot of computing actually got its ground. But yeah, once you got to the pictures and the various things, that was 1993. And if you weren't there, you won't know this, but the original web pages with pictures were not like we have today that are magazine layouts, big pictures and text and titles and so on. They were much like, those children's books that have the the text, and then they'll have, where there should be a word, they'll have a little picture in line with the text. So if you're talking about a dog and you say, Rusty was a dog, so instead of the word dog, you have the little picture, and he used to wag his tail, and you've got a picture of a dog's tail wagging, that kind of stuff. And he would chase after rabbits, and you'd have a little picture of you'd have 2 or 3 rabbits there instead of the word rabbits. Those kind of picture books for kids, that's the way the first web pages were. All the images were in line. So if you wanted to say, my name is Stephen Henry and this is me, you had a little postage stamp sized picture right in line with the sentences. It was crazy.
Yeah, we
But
have come such a long way, but then it's what, little over 3 decades, so that's a
yeah,
long time to be developing and working on things.
yeah, yeah, and it really hasn't changed much. Everything we see on the web, on a web page, is done with HTML, and there are very few additional HTML commands that have come along since those early days. The guys at CERN, and Cass, maybe you have the name of the fellow that put it together. I can't think of it right now, but
Tim Berners-Lee.
Tim Berners-Lee, exactly. And he and his team really fleshed out that whole concept of hypertext delivery pretty thoroughly and made very few mistakes. I can only remember one that he did, and it had to do with center and middle, different concepts, which have been sorted out since. And things that have been added in are very few. Other concepts, things like PHP as a language to make HTML dynamic. HTML is just a static markup language. It's not really a coding language, it's a markup language. And so PHP has been added in to make that dynamic. And CSS and has been brought in to kind of offload from the HTML, which was getting cumbersome with all the things that were added in for style. These custom style sheets have been separated out into a language, if you will, called CSS, which allows us to kind of style our website, organize our website,
Hmm.
and the look and the feel, and get so much more flexibility. But that underlying HTML is still there. I want to bring the two of you into this discussion before I get into some more kind of details. Maybe you can both comment on where you are with websites, because I know all three of us have websites. Um, who wants to jump in there first and kind of give us a little bit of a Cass? Go ahead.
Yeah, I can jump in there. So I've been online since about 1995. I was online, but I had a website in 1995, I believe. My very, very first website. I shocked my English teacher, and I did a website about the taming of the shrew, and I presented this as a project, and she didn't know how to market because she'd never had anybody hand in a website before. And I got 100% on the project, so it was great. And I didn't look back from there. I just kept pushing forward and learning new HTML and learning about how to design my website. And another website that I'll mention here is the Internet Archives, the Wayback Machine. I've been able to go back and find many of my personal websites from my youth that I played around with. Recently, I have had catastrophe.com, which is where I host my books that I'm working on, and I ended up going through a rebranding process because I realized interacting with the audience that I was finding or not finding on my website I found out that catastrophe was kind of hard for people to say and kind of hard for people to spell. Go figure. So people were having a hard time finding me online after we'd spoken in person or in some other place. And now my website is cassjhenry.com. very straightforward, very easy. People can hear it and they go to it. It's on my card and it's easy. That you don't have to check every letter as you're typing. Is that two S's in catastrophe? So I think that that's a really important point to make. That when you're looking at your domain, catastrophe was something my sister called me once when we were teenagers, and I just loved it and had it registered catastrophe.com, and I've had it for 20 years or more, and I've done various things with it, but it's not something that anybody or everybody thinks about, knows about, connects with anything for them. So having a domain that is easy to remember, that's in the language that you speak predominantly, and that's easy to find is a really important part that I learned the hard way with my domain.
That's a real
And
good point. Yeah, because
yeah,
I know I've done that myself with domain names that have been great ideas. Whoa, that's so cool. And then it turns out to be terrible because you haven't thought it through. Yeah, go. I cut you
mhm.
off there. Finish up.
I don't think there was that much more that I was going to say. My personal website now talks about my abundance counseling practice. It has a little bit more about the other things that I do, including Reiki and crystal healing and runes reading. And it's really straightforward. It's got the call to action on it. It's got who I am on it, and it's looking to make a connection with potential clients,
Love it.
which is all important pieces. So yeah, that's where I'm at on my website.
Okay, good stuff. Shelly Ann, what are you doing with yours?
Well, I am probably on the other end of that, going down to, if we're on a scale of like 0 to 10, I'm like on the scale of 2 or 3 with websites. The thing with me and websites, I understand the concepts, I understand the theory, I understand the value of it. But because I'm not so inclined to get into the creation side of it myself, I tend to sort of shy away from really establishing websites. Now, with me, my coaching, I do mainly word of mouth, and people who know people, they send them to me, and I have that going. And when in my other job, my other life, my other service, I am a writing teacher. I have a website for that one that is a lot more active and so on. But when it comes to the coaching, for some reason, I am very hesitant about really establishing a website, even though I understand the value of it. And like what Cass was saying, where you share who you are so that people can get to know you better and all those things. I suppose coming from the perspective of someone who is not creating it herself, because I know in Cass's case, you build your own website and you tweak it and you add the details as you would need to. In my case, I have to explain my ideas to someone else to get that done. And so for me, there's a gap between being able to explain it in the kind of detail that I would like to eventually establish the presence. So I have a very strained relationship with websites for my coaching in particular. For the other one, um, it's there, it's building, I'm adding to it. There's a blog, there are lots of things happening there because that's where I started first. So I've had more years with that one. But with the coaching, I guess I'm one of the people who would ask questions or, say things like, yeah, I know, but. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation and the entire series because I feel like certainly since COVID, I know pre-COVID lots of stuff was happening, but certainly since COVID, many more people understand what can be done online and how online presence is so valuable. And so there's been a sort of explosion now with online presence. Yep, we hear things more like, I don't really need a website. You don't really need a website. Use Facebook, use um YouTube, maybe
LinkedIn or
use yeah, social media, different platforms. Yet I know that is dangerous. And I feel like that's a good place as any to really get started because I understand fully well, having had Facebook close off, having been locked out of Facebook ever so often, having not been able to access YouTube. Now, where I am in Trinidad and Tobago, when I travel to the US, if I'm over there, I have to make YouTube has to recognize that I'm in a different place. And so there's a lot of stuff happening with other platforms, but your website is yours and you have ultimate control over that. And so that foundation is critical. And yet still there's a hesitation for me, as I suspect many new coaches coming up have that hesitation. So that's the key conversation that I'd like to have this morning, getting started. Why don't you have a website? What's holding you back? Well, that's me talking to me, right?
That's ideal. You use the word hesitant, and I get
Mhm.
that a lot when I'm talking to people, and we get a conversation going, and then they express, well, yeah, I know I should have a website, or I'm thinking about a website, or somebody told me I should have a website, but I'm hesitant. And the one
Mhm.
thing to remember about websites is that they're not cast in stone. Everything is malleable on a website. When you create a website, if it's not what you want, it can be changed. And if you have a good website designer, if they've quoted you a price, they understand that there's going to be changes and they'll allow for those changes. And an even better website designer will explain to you why they're doing things in a certain way. A bad website designer, a cheap website designer, one who isn't really looking out for your needs or doesn't even understand your needs. Ask your website designer, what are the three questions your website should answer on the home page to a person within seconds of them arriving on your site? Three questions, three answers that it should give them. And if they don't know, get a different website designer. But a good website designer can make changes, can explain what they're doing and why, and there's reasons for the various things. I often say pretty is nice, but it's not critical. There's other things that are critical besides pretty. And a term that I use that can go along with your discipline is pixel dust. Not pixie dust, pixel dust. A web screen, what you're looking at now, whether it's on your phone or tablet or a desktop computer or laptop, you're seeing a screen made up of pixels. Pixels are the dots that make up the screen, little rectangles of colors that make up the what you see. And pixel dust is what I like to refer to, kind of like a magic wand and fairy dust sprinkled on. You get the pixel dust, you can change it. It's not cast in stone, it's pixel dust. And Shelly Ann, you also mentioned blog, and I think Cass may have mentioned it as well. We're going to talk about blogging next week in focus, but I will be mentioning blogging a little bit this week because I think it's important. And considering starting at the beginning, I want to talk. I'm going to tell a little bit of a story, sort of something that actually happened to me 2 days ago, and it has to do with promoting yourself. And that's really what the online presence experience is about, promoting yourself. Now, you may not really want to put yourself out there, and that's where a website can help by getting you out there without you having to be out in the front of it. If you want to be out in the front of it, then a website can help you be the platform on which you can stand and present yourself. So that's promoting yourself is important if you're going to find success online, whatever you're doing. And this covers a whole range of things. If you're an influencer, if you're a blogger, if you're a marketer, a retailer, and as we're talking predominantly to coaches, if you're a coach or a guide or a mentor or a consultant in that range, a therapist, You want to have a presence, an online presence. Website is the foundation, the place to start. So I was on social media. I'm on social media typically every day and in multiple platforms. Forms part of my business and my online presence. And I saw somebody posting something that I was interested in. It was a product that they have, and they were posting to share a concept about the product, not the product itself, but I was caught by the product. It caught my attention. And so I asked them if there was a link where I could get more information about the product. And their post had no link, had no contact information, even though that was allowed in that particular social media location. They could have, put a link, and they didn't. So when I asked them about it, they provided me with a WhatsApp link. Now I don't use WhatsApp, and it's a very popular communication method. I just don't happen to use it within the mix of things that I do. It's just one more thing. And I may get into it, I may not. It depends. But in this particular case, I reached out again and I asked, do you have a website? And they said to me, no, I don't need a website. My clients prefer WhatsApp. Now, that was an interesting statement because I know quite a bit about WhatsApp. I work with clients who do use it, and I've had to learn about it. WhatsApp in the list of social media platforms that are truly social media, not search engines or blogs or those kinds of things, but social media platforms. WhatsApp is probably the second largest with about 2.5 billion, that's with a B, 2.5 billion monthly active users. Facebook would be number one with about 2.9 plus billion monthly active users. That's a lot. Following WhatsApp would be Instagram, about 1.5 billion. WeChat, one that isn't maybe as common in people's thinking, but it's about 1.2 billion. That's a pretty significant number. And then it drops all the way down to about 500 million for Telegram. And then there's a whole lot of others, of course. So WhatsApp is a predominant area, a predominant vehicle for communication. But think about what the person said. I don't need a website because my clients prefer WhatsApp. Well, of course, if you make WhatsApp your method of contacting with people, connecting with people, then there are going to be people that prefer that particular method. However, the people that don't use WhatsApp are not going to be able to contact you, so you'll never know that they don't prefer WhatsApp, right? There's no connection. That's an interesting thing to keep in mind. And furthermore, let's look at discoverability. This is a very interesting area that we need to look at. WhatsApp has limited discoverability. It's primarily a closed message platform. Two people communicate with each other. There is a process for group communication, but it's also closed, and only people that are kind of in the group will be communicating with each other. There's no inherent search functionality, and there are no public profiles. So it makes it difficult for you to be found by those who are not already on your contact list. So yes, you'll have great conversations and great connectability with your clients, people who are already your clients, but you will have less discoverability by people who are not your clients who could be finding you. Facebook, think about that. Facebook is a better discoverable possibility because it has search visibility. It allows for public profiles, pages, groups, and a few other little things that it can do, which makes it easier for users to discover you because it has built-in search. They can search for your name, for keywords, for interests, and they can find you. And Facebook it's the content that you share on Facebook is also shared in or indexed in regular search engines, so you can be found. Did
Yeah,
one
I
of you want
think.
to
I
chip
was
in
just
there?
going to say it also has suggestions, right? You might get a
Hmm.
group or a post or a page suggested to you on Facebook.
Yeah,
You might like
which you
this, you
won't
might
get on
know
WhatsApp.
this.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and
So,
those
all
are
right. So then, what I'm
powerful
hearing
tools.
then is, I think maybe now is a good time to establish the why do you need a website? Because what is the function of a website? What would a website do for you as a coach? Exactly. And so far, I've heard um, two things in what you said. One is the discoverability, and Cass mentioned that when she was speaking about the website name and website domain. And you also mentioned um, presence where someone asks for information, you could send them to the website to get more details.
Yeah, and that's exactly the next thing that I wanted to run into. I want to talk about that discoverability. We've looked at WhatsApp in particular. It's not a bad choice, but it's not as good a choice. And we've looked at Facebook, which is the largest of the social media platforms that people use regularly, and it's a better choice, but it's still not the best choice. But when you look at your cell phone, self-hosted website, and you mentioned this, Shelley Ann, in your previous comments on it, you control. That's the key to
Mhm.
the website, is that you control. You control the SEO, the search engine optimization, which optimizes your website for being discovered or found in search engines, Google, DuckDuckGo, etc. And you can't do that as much with social media. You can do it a little bit, but you don't have the kind of in depth control that you have with a website of your own. And with the right website, the right platform, you'll actually get assistance with that if they're properly constructed. So that's important. That's there. And so let's look then at what it can do for a coach, um, why you want to have a website. And remember, I said a website should be the foundation of your online presence. It's not your whole online presence. Yes, use social media, use search engines, use a variety of other online tools and offline tools that will benefit your online exposure, but have a website and make it the central foundation to which all other things are connected. You push information out from your website and you draw people back into your website from these other places and platforms. So, the first thing that you get with a website is increased credibility and professionalism. Um,
Mhm.
Coca Cola uses social media. Do you think they have a website as well? You betcha, Red Rider. They've got an amazing website. They do a lot of other things. Search Coca Cola on YouTube, search Coca Cola on Facebook. Look for Coca Cola on WhatsApp. You can't search for them, but you can look for them. It's there. They recognize all of these various things, but they use their website as a central focus. A well defined website establishes your business as legitimate and trustworthy until, if you destroy that trust, that's a problem. But it gives you that establishment anyway. It shows that you're serious about your business and willing to invest in your online presence. People find a comfort in dealing with you in those circumstances. If you're only, on Facebook, immediately many people are not sure if you're legitimate or you're a scammer. Not too many Facebook scammers actually have their own websites. Um,
Mm. And let me interrupt here.
yeah,
For those that do, when you look at the website, if you know anything about online presence at all and websites, you can tell it looks scammy. It looks like something is missing because, I'm listening and I'm thinking that in the digital space, the website functions like an office or like a brick and mortar business space. So in the tangible world, when we're walking about and we see a business and it has a storefront, we think, hey, there's this business. But in the digital world, when we're walking about and we see a website, that's what the interaction is like. And if it's just like Facebook or social media, then it feels more like if, you bump into this person at a pop-up shop or, some sort of like a fair or something.
Yep,
It's not theirs, they just have a little space. And that's the kind of interaction with social media and all those other things. But
absolutely.
when you see they have a space and they have a website, that's theirs. And like you said, they're serious. These people are in it, to deal with things.
And there's nothing at all wrong with having that pop up, you know, sales place or that booth in the corridors of a shopping mall or, a stand at a fair. Nothing wrong with those things. And they're great ways to make contacts and to, sell product to people or make your services known. But what do people do? They say, "Do you have a business card? Do you have a
Hmm.
store that
Hmm.
I can? I'm really not prepared to buy this today. I would love one. I didn't bring enough cash with me, or I don't use a credit card. So I would love to, but can I find you at your store?" And sometimes they'll even ask you that because they want to know if you're kind of a fly by night deal or if you've got a
Yeah.
store where you can go. Same exact thing applies online. When you have that website, it gives you that credibility. Good websites, of course, will have integrated and add-on security features like secure socket layers, SSL certificates. Um, you can make regular backups. You can control when you need to restore those backups. And you can have security scan processes that are added in or part of the structure. All of these things that you don't have control of on social media platforms, not only can they shut your account down without a reason or without notice, but things can go wrong and they can lose your data. And hopefully they've got backups and they restore things and things are transparent so you don't ever even notice that. But it can happen. And I've had friends that have lost data, lost whole swaths of data because they only had it on their social media. They didn't have it backed up somewhere. They didn't keep it on their computer. They posted it on their social media and thought it would be safe, and it was lost. And when they contacted the social media company, "Oh, well, we're sorry," but that was it. And you don't have.
I
Yep.
was just going to say that my cat walked across my keyboard last night, and I got locked out of Facebook for an hour.
Yeah, yeah. And you could be trying to put an important deal together in that hour, and you can't.
Mhm.
So you need to have that foundation that you control. Now your website can
You
be
can
down for an
pivot,
hour
right? You
too.
can pivot from it.
Exactly. That's the key, is that if it all ties together, it's an online presence. It's not an online spot. And that's important. We talked
Mhm.
about domain names, and you want to have a custom domain name, yourbusinessname.com or yourpersonalname.com. And that's a unique address. You're the only one who has that. Everybody and their mother, 2.9 plus billion people have Facebook as their address, Facebook something. But only you have that domain name. It's unique. And that adds professionalism and credibility. And it makes you and your business easier to find and remember if, as Cass said, you choose a domain name that is easier to work with. So that's a key place. Um, on marketplace sites, you have to ask yourself, will you be found? On Etsy, they have search on Etsy, but if a person doesn't know you or what you handle or how you label it, how are they going to find it? Etsy's so full of other people selling the same things that you have that the chance of you coming up at the top of the list are very, very small, and you have little or no control over that.
Yeah, and not only that, with Etsy in particular, but all the other platforms like that, the concept of reviews make a difference to how you're seen, so that someone who doesn't understand your product or just doesn't really care can say something like, you know what, I got this, but I never used it, 1 star, and your rating could be tanked on
Yes.
Etsy.
Yeah, and so many of them are like that. Whereas you
Hmm.
control what you are going to share and say, and I mean, obviously, you're going to put your best reviews out there. Um, I find in my own circumstances, if I have a marginal review, I'll often put it out there and answer it because I can answer it. On many of
Hmm.
the other platforms, if you get a bad review, you can't take it off, and even if you wanted to, and you can't
Yep.
even respond to it in many cases. So you can't explain or provide the other information. Your own website gives you such flexibility.
Yeah.
Um, and that other part of social media, of course, is what do you actually control, and that goes right down to your whole presence there can be blown away. So that was the first area that I wanted to cover, and I think we've all had some experience with that. The second area that's important about a website of your own is that you can have wider reach and accessibility. Reach is outgoing, accessibility is incoming. And it makes your business accessible to a global audience 24/7. And yeah, social media mostly is up there 24/7 too, but if you look at the differences, look at a good website and what it has available on it. Now go to Facebook and look at somebody's profile and their timeline. How far down their timeline are you going to go? Everything is stacked one on top of the other. And unless comments are made that will update and pull it to the top of the list in many cases, the stuff gets pushed way, way down. How many
Yeah.
screens will you go down a page? But in a well defined website, the control, the access control, the menuing system, and so on is more user friendly. It's what we refer to as the user experience, the UE or the UX, and it allows you to move both up and down the pages and laterally through the menus through the pages, so that there is far more interest in going further into the website. That's easier to deliver, and people tend to like that. And
Yeah, I think in terms of the Facebook, I think we have all, and even Instagram, we have all had the experience where we saw something that piqued our interest and we turned away for 2 seconds and turned back, and then where did it go? Because Facebook has a way of updating the page.
yeah,
So even if you're on your feed and you see something, the page refreshes itself and changes the order in which the things are on the feed.
yeah,
And, you know, God forbid that you click away and you open it back. Good luck in finding that thing that you saw.
yeah,
That,
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
the thing that I've encountered the most on Facebook is the reels have different time limits than other
mm,
social media. So you might be watching a reel and all of a sudden it cuts off and there's nowhere to find the rest of this reel. But if it linked to a web page, you'd be able to control the length of the video that you want on there, and you can put the entire video on there for somebody to watch.
yeah,
There are
mhm.
dozens, maybe hundreds of cakes that I've never seen the end of room renos that I've never seen the end of outfits that were being re-sewn together that I've never seen the end of. And that's my life.
how do you feel about that? How does that make you feel?
Honestly, it's become a joke in my family at this point. But
So,
before that, yeah, it made me feel incomplete. I was like, what's going on here? Why can't I find any? I feel lost. I feel confused and frustrated.
Frustrated,
Yeah.
exactly.
mhm.
Yeah. Now, the
And even
interesting
even
thing, oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
I want to say, but even outside of the feeling, that person, the person who shared the reel, lost a potential client, and you are just one of the potential clients that they would have lost. So if you're a coach and you are using these platforms to get people engaged and to come and find you and to engage with you as a coach, and that kind of thing is happening, then you are essentially pushing people away
Yeah.
by that
Absolutely.
situation.
Yeah. And that frustration and the occurrence of the pushing away, it inures to your credibility, your professionalism, your perceived professionalism. And so you lose customers who not only don't end up being a client, but they tell other people, oh, don't deal with that person. I wasn't satisfied. They may even forget what it was that turned them off, but they
Yeah.
remember the name and the bad experience and they share that with people. And yes, P.T. Barnum said it, that any type of exposure is good exposure, but in the reality, in the world of the internet, where it's fast paced and it's overwhelming, you do not want bad exposure because people have long memories. And they seek out better things.
And
And
it's interesting, long memories with the things that they did not like or appreciate, and slightly shorter memories with the stuff that worked well. And in the case of, all exposure is, exposure, bad exposure has to be managed and dealt with and responded to. But if you don't even know the kind of impact it's having because of the reels cutting off, or clients looking for you and can't find you, the average person, if they look and they're interested, um and they can't find you, they move on because there's so much else that they can do and so much else that is available to them. And for me, that's a key thing with Facebook. What I've recognized is that, there's a lot of talk about, and I know we're going into social media as well eventually, but just to say this now, there's a lot of talk about, how many times a day you have to post on social media and whatnot. And I don't think there's any specific formula except to say that you have to remain visible. And remaining visible means something different depending on the platform. And so it's something that I had to learn in terms of, okay, I post it, and then I posted it, in the group is for the day, and I said my thing in the morning. If I come back just 2 hours after, depending on how active the group is, as you mentioned, Steve, things go down. And if nobody saw it because they came to make their own post and not necessarily to read mine, then it's all the way down. And so what happens is that it gets lost. And so the frequency at which you have to engage and keep up with social media is not the same as if you're on your website. If you're on your website and you have a blog, or you have an ad for a product or a description of a product, there's nothing but your own voice pushing that down, and you decide what stays up. And once that is up, and that's the first thing the client sees or the prospective client sees, then that's what they're paying attention to.
yeah,
And so the fewer other voices, aka none other voices,
yeah, yeah.
pushing your own down.
That's so powerful, and I want to address two things that you've referred to there. One specifically, and one you've alluded to, which I think are critical. I mentioned that I would be talking a little bit about blogging today, and a website of your own can have an integrated blog. You don't have to have a separate blog platform. You can have them both together. There are some advantages to having a separate blog platform. We'll talk more about those kinds of things next week. But having a blog allows you to post information and have a frequency and a pattern of posting, all those good things that can be derived from that. Again, we'll talk specifics next week. But what you post, as you've said, stays there and can be found. And most blogs have very good search engines built in that you can search and find exactly what you're looking for. I have a blog with over 1,200 blog posts on it. 1,200, that's a lot. And people can find blog posts that were written 5-6 years ago by searching for keywords that will lead to that post, and they can get to it. They don't have to scroll down through a timeline of 1,200 posts, Facebook timeline, for example, or a Facebook group, which nobody would go down that far and try searching in some of those platforms and just search for something is there. Search for something you put there a month ago. See if you can find it. So that's a bit of a challenge, but it's interesting. And then the second aspect that is the social media. Social media is important to your online presence. We're going to talk about that specifically also in a couple of weeks. But it's also important to your website. And as I said, that website gives you reach and it gives you accessibility. You should be tying your social media to your website, so that you can curate on your website things that you're going to share on social media. And instead of sharing full posts, I mean, when you go onto Facebook, for example, in a group, in a topic that you're following, and there's a little blurb and a picture, and at the bottom of the little blurb, it says, read more or see more or whatever it says there. And you click on that, and it opens up something that's several screens long. A person shared the whole blog post, the whole big thing. How many times do you read that? Or how many times do you just click it closed and go on to the next thing? Think about that. It caught your attention, but you didn't actually read everything. Maybe you start reading everything there, but the person buries the lead. And you're reading down through general stuff over and over again, and you haven't got to the meat of it yet. You give up and move on.
But it's rarely formatted very well on that little window.
Yeah.
Right? It's all the same solid thing of text.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So and one picture down at the bottom that it you allowed you to place there, or maybe a grid of pictures that allowed you to place there, but that doesn't break up the text. Instead, if it had a little blurb and a link to your blog post. Now, some, moderators or administrators of Facebook groups will not allow you to share links. Their loss. They don't realize how beneficial it is to them to share links. And I'll discuss that more in, how to run a group in future sessions when we talk about that. But if they allow links, and if they don't, find another group. There's groups on the topic you're interested in. There's every topic you could be interested in. There's hundreds of groups available. Find the ones that let you be you. So you post a blurb about it, enough to catch people's attention, a title that expresses what it's about properly, and you do it seriously, not scammy link bait. You post what it is, and you have a link, and you have a properly SEO'd blog post or page or landing page on your website where this is going to be covered, the long form article, and it is structured in such a way that Facebook, for example, automatically grabs an image from there and posts that relevant image. And you can control that on your website, which image it's going to post. And so it does that, and then people click on that link or image and go through to your website, and now they have a magazine style page with text broken up with bulleted lists and numbered lists and paragraphs and titles and subtitles and pictures throughout that are relevant to the content, and it's easy to read. It feels like you're reading a magazine article. And so people are going to be more likely to read it. And when they're there reading it, they may choose to look at other blog posts that you've got and get more information from you. You're becoming the go-to expert in their mind, and whatever it is you sell, a service, products, whatever it is, it's right there for people to see, instead of a link that's out there, a post that they may not read on social media. Now you've got a captive audience on your website. So that tie-in is important. The other thing we want to look at then is control over brand identity.
Mm-hmm.
Brand is so important, and a lot of people overlook that. Having a logo is important. And having a logo that is a logo and not a billboard. So many people think a logo should be a billboard that says everything about your business. That's not what a logo is. Look at recognizable logos. The most common, simple one is the Red Cross Association. In the Western world, Red Cross is an immediately recognizable logo. Amazon's little smile, recognizable logo. Nike's
The Nike, that Nike swoosh, that's immediately when you said logo, that's the first thing that comes to my mind,
Yep.
Came to my mind because it is to me the simplest, most recognizable logo that I know. Because
Yep.
even with the Red Cross, there's a lot more happening there than just the swoosh for Nike.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who knows the brand would recognize it to the point where anything that kind of looks like it is going to be recognized as that brand as
Yeah.
well.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's so important. The most recognizable brand around the world, talking about brand identity, not just the logo, is Coca-Cola by far. And I can show you things that will immediately put Coca-Cola into your head. If I show you the shape of the glass that is a typical Coca-Cola glass, you immediately think Coca-Cola. I can show that in a black silhouette and you'll say Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
If I show you the shape of the bottle, now they don't even use those bottles anymore. Well, they do a little bit, but they don't use them. It was everywhere originally. Now you can get Coca-Cola in a straight 2-liter bottle. But that old bottle shape, for most people, I can show you that in silhouette and you recognize Coca-Cola. But even more powerful, the Coca-Cola logo is a whole word, Coca-Cola, in a certain font style, with the C providing a swoop of color, of extension underneath, like a line, only it's a swoop underneath the word. And if I take a piece of that swoop of white and put it on a red background, like on a Coca-Cola can, you immediately recognize Coca-Cola. All I have to do is show you a red rectangle with a white swoop on it. And if I'm anywhere close to what that swoop looks like, you'll immediately think Coca-Cola. That's brand identity to the nth degree. And that's what we want to do. And it's hard to do that on social media, even when we can put certain things like a header on our group or on our profile page. But where do you put your logo? Where do you put other things when you're doing these things? Where do you build that brand identity? But a website gives you a huge palette, a huge field of opportunity to do that. And
So I want
I'm
to say
noticing
then,
that we're. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just going to say that I think we can add brand identity as a coach to the list of
For
topics
online
as
presence.
we're
Yeah,
dealing with online
absolutely.
presence. Yeah, how that brand identity.
yeah,
So
we
I
would.
was just going to notice that we're almost out of time, and I wanted to sort of sum up what I think Steve has been saying all along: is that a robust website, is a foundational pillar for business success, increasing brand awareness, driving user engagement, and boosting conversions, which is what you want. You want clients to come in, engage, and convert.
Yeah, and to recognize who you are, not just to buy something from you, but to recognize who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
increasing
why?
brand awareness. Yeah.
Because then they'll
Mhm.
tell other people about it. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. Yeah, it's great. It's
Okay.
awesome. And we've only covered three of the 10 areas that I wanted to cover. Obviously, I knew that we talked about this ahead of time, that there would be more than we would be able to do. So we'll look at this again further. There's so much more to share about websites that I think coaches should understand. They want to have this capability, and when they realize everything that's there, it underscores why you should have a website as the focus of your online presence.
Mhm. Awesome.
What's
All right.
next week? Blogging, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, I think so. We'd revisit website after we've touched on a couple of the others so that we can get like key concepts
Mhm.
in a broad spectrum, and then we'll come back and go deeper. Okay,
Good stuff.
nice. Well, I guess that's it for this week. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye. Thanks for
Bye.
coming, buddy. We'll see you.